Today's briefing. Active exploits are accelerating. A macOS Infostealer rides fake AI installers. U.S. agencies move on a Wing FTP flaw now in the KEV catalog. A stealthy backdoor targets Ukraine by abusing edge debugging. And a weekly recap flags fresh exposures, from Chrome to cloud. Let's get you the actions that matter. Welcome back. This is your operational cybersecurity roundup. Concise context, verified facts, and immediate takeaways to reduce risk right now. First, a quick pulse check on daily trends. Multiple newly disclosed vulnerabilities are already being actively exploited or are highly likely to draw immediate attacker interest. That compresses your patching window and increases odds of real-world impact. The Defender takeaway: accelerate triage on any issues tagged as actively exploited. Bring high-risk internet-facing services to the front of your queue. Enable temporary compensating controls where available, and heighten monitoring for exploitation patterns while changes roll out. In parallel, several vendors have shipped patches or advisories addressing these and other newly disclosed vulnerabilities. This is the window to convert threat into mitigation. The Defender takeaway: audit your environment against current advisories, map fixes to your asset inventory, and schedule emergency maintenance where severity or exposure is high. If you can't patch today, apply vendor-recommended mitigations and hardening guidance immediately. On to targeted malware delivery. Investigators have identified 3 separate click-fix campaigns, delivering the MacSync information stealer to macOS users through fake AI tool installers. Unlike exploit-led compromises, these lures succeed by getting users to copy and execute terminal commands themselves, often without understanding the risk. This matters because it bypasses many exploit-centric defenses and expands the threat to macOS fleets that rely on user trust in installers and command snippets. For defenders, focus on user workflow controls and education. Block or prompt on execution of untrusted scripts. Enforce installation from approved catalogs. And monitor for unusual command line activity originating from copy-paste behaviors. Reinforce a simple rule with users: never run commands from an installer page unless vetted by IT. Next, U.S. agencies have been warned to secure Wing FTP server instances due to an actively exploited vulnerability that can be chained toward remote code execution. The key facts are straightforward. Targeting is happening now. Internet-facing Wing FTP deployments raise immediate risk, and chaining suggests additional weaknesses or misconfigurations may amplify impact. This matters because successful exploitation could yield server control, data access, or staging for lateral movement. The immediate takeaway: identify all Wing FTP assets, validate versions and exposure. Apply the vendor's fixes or temporary mitigations. Restrict external access where possible, and increase logging and alerting around authentication anomalies and unexpected process activity. Closely related, one Wing FTP server issue, CVE 2025-47813, an information disclosure vulnerability, has been added to the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog based on evidence of active exploitation. KEV inclusion signals federal prioritization under Binding Operational Directive 2201 and is often used across sectors to drive patch SLAs. The significance is clear. Information disclosure can provide attackers with the footholds or data needed to escalate to more damaging outcomes, and active exploitation removes any ambiguity about urgency. Defender takeaway: treat CVE 2025-47813 as a must-fix. Patch on the KEV timeline, or faster. Validate that instances are not exposed unnecessarily, and review logs for signs of prior access or data exfiltration consistent with disclosure. Turning to espionage activity, a campaign dubbed Drill App has targeted Ukrainian entities and abuses Microsoft Edge debugging features for stealth. Observed in February 2026, the activity reportedly overlaps with prior operations linked to Laundry Bear, also known as UAC 0190 or Void Blizzard. The notable point is the abuse of legitimate debugging functionality to blend in with normal behavior, complicating detection. This matters for anyone defending high-value or government-adjacent networks. Living off the land techniques and developer tool abuse reduce the signal available to traditional detections. Defender takeaway: enforce browser and developer policy baselines to restrict or disable unnecessary debugging features. Monitor for unusual edge child processes and command line flags associated with debugging, and tighten egress controls to limit covert exfiltration channels. Finally, the weekly recap highlights a mix of high-signal issues: Chrome 0 days, router botnets, an AWS breach, and concerns around rogue AI agents, alongside broader infrastructure abuse. The thread through all of them is erosion of trust boundaries, within browsers, at the network edge, in cloud identity, and inside automated workflows. Why this matters: confirmed exposure or compromise changes risk calculations, and the diversity of vectors demands defense in depth across endpoints, network, and identity. Defender takeaway: verify Chrome is on the latest stable channel release across all platforms. Update and harden router firmware with remote administration disabled unless strictly required. Recheck cloud access keys and least privilege policies with incident response plans rehearsed. And apply governance to AI agents so they operate with minimal privileges and auditable actions. That's the briefing. If this helped you prioritize what to patch and where to look, subscribe, share with your team, and drop a comment with what you're triaging today. Stay safe out there. I'll see you in the next one.